Hi, I'm COMM210. This is my audience. Okay, how many of you have been to Beijing? Everyone. But how many of you think you really know about Beijing? No one. So today I want to introduce more about my hometown Beijing to you, and I will focus on the history aspect. For me, I have been living in Beijing for over 15 years. In addition, my parents told me like hundreds of history stories about Beijing these years. Those stories and my experience make me an expert on Beijing. Speaking of the content of my speech, I think it is important to know more about this city, because not only Beijing is the capital of China, but also it has a history of more than 3,000 years. So please be concentrated about what I'm going to say, and I hope it will be interesting. There are 3 main points of my speech. Firstly, I will share some basic history knowledge about Beijing, so that you can have a primary understanding to it. Secondly, I will share some interesting history about some place names. Lastly, I'm going to look into the future. Okay, let's begin. Firstly, as you know, Beijing has a history over 3,000 years. In thousands of years, Beijing is not always the name of this city. The first name was Yandu. And here is an interesting tips. I believe all of you know that China has a city named Nanjing. But do you know Beijing had also used the name Nanjing in 938? In addition, in those thousands of years, Beijing is not always the capital of our country, but the fact that it is always an important city has never changed. Now, I'm going to introduce the history of 2 place names in Beijing. There is a subway station named Apple Grove in Beijing. It seems just a common place name, but actually this name has a history of hundreds of years. In Ming Dynasty, Liu was a person who served in the palace, worrying about what he could do after he retired. So he bought a garden, planting some apple trees, and gave the name to this garden, Apple Grove. After 10 years, he stopped serving in the palace and then lived in Apple Grove. The Apple Grove still exists. This is a picture. The other place name is 5 Pine Trees. In Qing Dynasty, there were 5 pine trees around the tomb of Admiral Shaoyin. Those pine trees were really tall, and it became a famous view because of the magnificence of those trees. Regrettably, those trees died in about 17 years ago, but I can show you the picture. Speaking of the future of Beijing, I believe it will be more international, and becoming an international metropolis is one of its targets in following years. It is building the 2nd international airport now. The new airport is to meet the annual passenger throughput of 100 million people demand. I believe it will be one of the most famous cities around the world in the future. Now, I hope you have known more about the history of Beijing because of my speech. So overall, I introduced the basic history background of Beijing. Then I shared some history knowledge about 2 place names. Lastly, I looked into the future of Beijing. I hope you enjoy the speech and understand more about Beijing. And thanks for your time. Here's my audience again.